This episode of Grilled is sponsored by Rationale, your leading provider in multifunctional hot food preparation equipment. Register now for a free Rationale live demo at www.rationale-online.com. Thanks for downloading Grilled by the Staff Canteen. I'm Cara, editor of the Staff Canteen, and in this episode we ask, has the coronavirus brought us closer to understanding the fundamentals of how to lead a healthy lifestyle? I spoke to two Michelin-starred Sat Bains, chef owner of Hackney Restaurant Plates and founder of the Chef's Wellness Programme, Kirk Haworth, the Burnt Chef Project founder, Kris Hall, and actor, fitness and diet expert, Tom Hopper. We wanted to discuss how mental well-being and physical fitness contribute to overall health, how it is crucial to stay on top of it when hospitality workers are operating at full steam, and whether the coronavirus outbreak is the industry's chance to implement positive change. Thank you for joining us on this live discussion about health and well-being during this period of lockdown, but also as we move forward into a new normal, whatever that might be, in the hospitality industry. I'm Cara Houchin, I'm the editor of the Staff Canteen, and joining me today I've got some amazing guests who are all passionate about all aspects of health and who can hopefully give you an insight and inspire you to make some small changes, whatever they might be. Working in hospitality, we all know it can be tough, and with the added stress of coronavirus, it's even more important to look after yourself and obviously the people around you, whether that be your friends, your family, your teams. So my guests, I'll let them introduce themselves, and maybe if you could say a little bit about why you wanted to be a part of this discussion, and why health and diet and fitness and mental health is all kind of linked for yourself. So Sat, let's start with you.
Hi, my name's Sat Bains. I've got a restaurant in Nottingham. I think mental health and fitness is crucial to a healthy life, and also a positive mindset can really push you into positive things, and also keep a very positive team around you. So it's a very, very crucial part of our armour. Okay,
brilliant. And Kirk, you next. What about you? Why did you want to be a part of this discussion?
So my name is Kirk Haworth. I run a little restaurant called Plates, and I also have a chef's program called Chef's Wellness, which is to try and share knowledge and tips with each other to try and help each other in ways that can benefit each other in many ways, mentally and physically, and talking about the connection between what we put in our body and our mental health. So I'm just extremely passionate. It's become a huge hobby of mine over the last few years, since battling with a lot of health conditions, to really look at the connection between gut and mind health. And yeah, I'm just honoured to be here. So thanks for inviting me.
No, perfect. And I think it would be nice to talk to you, Tom, next, because obviously you were one of the speakers at Kirk's Chef's Wellness events that he did before lockdown. So maybe, tell us a bit about you and why you wanted to be a part of this, and maybe, I don't know if you did, but anything you learned about chefs when you did that event with Kirk.
Yeah, so my name's Tom Hopper. I'm primarily an actor. But one of my biggest passions in life, well, it's become one of my biggest passions in life over the last 10 years, is I'm a huge believer in food is medicine. I have spent the last 10 years studying the nutritional value of food, how it could be so influential on our bodies, on our minds, on our overall well-being. I've studied a lot about Ayurvedic medicine and how food is such an amazing influencer, and trying to bring that into daily life for myself and my family, and also trying to influence people in a positive way as much as possible. We have a podcast coming out called The Earth Locker, which is all about making us all better humans, better earthlings in any way we can. And a big part of that is what we put in our bodies, and we are, what we eat, and a big, from a hospitality point of view, I think there's certain ingredients that have found their way into everyday living for us, whether it's sugar, whether it's certain grains, there's certain things that we take in that have become the norm, and they're actually, they're quite damaging to us as human beings, and we shouldn't really ever consume them. And I realized when I went to Chef's Wellness and spoke to a lot of chefs, is that there's this expectance from the customer that they expect a certain taste, right? So they expect that when they go to a restaurant and they have certain desserts and things like that, it's got to taste so sweet because the customer expects that now. They've been conditioned to expect that. And I think there's something that I've learned in my own cooking and speaking with other Ayurvedic chefs and things like that, how we can actually alter that from being the norm so that we can actually use healthier ingredients as the norm now, and trying to create that mind shift set in a lot of other people.
Yeah, no, diet and what we eat is so interesting, and obviously we'll talk more about that. And finally, waiting very patiently, Kris, if we go on to you, and if you could tell us a bit more about yourself and the Burnt Chef project.
Yeah, sure, no worries. So my name is Kris Hall. I run a non-profit social enterprise business called the Burnt Chef Project. The long and short, without getting into the nitty gritty, is basically it's trying to give the trade and the industry a voice in terms of destigmatizing mental health. It's obviously something that not just with chefs, but generally the nation don't feel too comfortable about speaking about mental health problems. The NHS say that 1 in 4 people have mental health issues within the nation, but we've had studies that actually show within hospitality specifically, it's more than 8 out of 10 people. So we're just here to really give people a bit of a voice and being part of this discussion hopefully allows people to feel that they're not alone with regards to mental health issues, and that it's a normal biological thing that everyone goes through. It's just you don't always speak about it, and we're trying to just change that around.
Okay, and well, let's stick with mental health for a minute then. And taking hospitality out of it, you're an all-male panel, so talking about mental health or any health issues, is that something that men still feel that they shouldn't or can't? Do you think? I don't know who wants to go first.
I think ultimately, as it's a shame it's all men as well. I don't know why we haven't got more women on here, but I think it's that bullshit of the macho. Chefing was back in. I'm probably the oldest one here, so I started cooking in the late '80s when it was really brutal and lots of drugs and lots of alcohol and lots of bullying. And what was interesting, it was a real shitty industry. You didn't have to have an intellect. You weren't employed from the neck up. You were employed from the neck down. You were there as a grafter. You did your work. You went to the pub, smoked 20 fags, had 4 pints, went back to the split shift. But that's the mentality it was. It's only, I've seen probably 3 generations of chefs and our industry change. And I kind of call it the Beckham era. It's when footballers started really looking after themselves, so did chefs. And it's a real kind of, they started looking after their diet, looking after their kind of appearance, and then the professional chef came through. So if you look at Ramsay and Beckham, they were almost on par. And it was a real strange twist because it was more about health, and Ramsay was doing the Iron Man and looking after himself. And yes, he was still macho, and I'm not going to use him as a role model, but as soon as you realise that it's a career and you're actually nurturing, and once the macho's gone, you realise that it's one of the most incredible jobs in the world. But there's a lot of stigma involved still from the past that we're all trying to change and have a really good view on it.
Okay.
Sorry, just to jump in there, what is interesting seeing at a grassroots level is that it's the older heads, so the guys who've been in the trade and guys and girls who've been in the trade for a long time, who have never really got accustomed to this new way of thinking with regards to mental health stigma. And we're seeing that these cultures within kitchens are still existing, whereby people are expected to give their life and soul to do 50, 60, 70, 80-hour weeks for that badge of honor. And those sort of environments are where you keep your mouth shut, you get on with it, and you keep pushing through, and you show that you're one of the team because you don't want to be that weakling. So whilst we're seeing it maybe necessarily at the higher levels of TV personalities and people who are in the public eye, the grassroots, we're still seeing that old school mentality coming through, which is just balmy, really.
But the problem with that is, I agree with you 100%, but it's a very medieval mindset. And I think as you look at the modern last 10, 15 years, chefs have worked and the industry has worked very hard. Mental health is massive. And you'd be stupid to deny we've all suffered from it. And it's how you deal with it. Get therapy, get help, speak to your fellow friends, your family. And no one should be forced to work 80 hours, 60 hours in a kitchen for shit
I
pay.
mean, with a big part of that side as well, I'm assuming there's a big part of that that's like sleep deprivation, is there? And like obviously not having time to actually feed your body the right thing. Is that a big part of it as well?
You can't perform while you're standing and eating some scraps of food that the restaurant thinks that is okay to give to staff because they've been there 16 hours. We should just give them something. And it's normally really shit food. And the properties of it, the macros of it are wrong. It's all going to be starchy. So you have a massive surge of sugar. Your energy levels kick in. You feel sleepy. It doesn't prolong your sustainability for a long service, especially in the evening. So we've employed a nutritionist 2 years ago. She's looking at the diet for the staff and myself. She looks at the staff food. We've now introduced, before we close, which is crazy, there was always a lull around 8 or 9 o'clock because we eat at 4:30. And the front of house staff, if you notice, they don't eat anything because the chefs are always tasting. So we're getting probably little surges of energy. But the front of house, you'd see them like cheekily eat a bread roll and then they'll get bollocked. And I thought, hang on, we need to feed them again a small little snack around between 8 and 9 that's got some nice calorific value. It's got good like peanut butter, something that's going to give them a little surge, some fruit, some nuts. And what it does, it sustains them until, say, 12 o'clock when they finish. And these are things I've got to look for as a restaurateur and a restaurant as a chef. Like, you can't expect someone to eat at 4:30 and then not eat anything right through to 12:30. Yeah. No one will do that.
Even when you're not working now and you're not using any energy, I'm not. When it gets to, even if I've eaten my tea at 6 o'clock, 8:30, I want another snack, man.
Yeah. But
I haven't been working.
Not so as a waiter, a front of house, sommelier, they're tasting wine. But because of that, you're craving. As chefs, we can have a quick taste of that as a dressing. You're being sated. But as a front of house, you're
feeding your mind, aren't you?
Yeah, and I think these are things I'm always looking at, and I try to think outside the box, and I try not. I want a very, very strong team that has their own health and well-being first before the customer. Yeah. And that way, they're going to look after the customer better.
Yeah.
And
I always remember when I obviously took a lot of time out and started to feed my own body, I realised that like through training, since coming to London at 19 or whatever, you work 18 hours a day and you give your passion, love, energy, power, everything into that plate of food.
Not yourself.
To somebody, through another side of a wall that you're probably never going to see again. And it doesn't, even though that's our job and we love it and we obsessed with it, it doesn't make any sense. So we've got to feed ourselves first.
Kurt, you're right. But also, if you think about it, like you said, you did 18 hours from the age of it. But why? Because that's what was expected.
Yeah, if you wanted to learn in the best places, that's what you did.
Yeah, but that's wrong. That model's wrong.
The new model, as you say, Sat, is a model of retention. It's a model of actually saying, do you know what? We're going to hire someone and we're going to train you and we're going to nurture you and we're going to make sure you're healthy and that you work to high levels of efficiency and that actually you're here in 5 years' time, rather than a large portion of the industry, which is get them in. If they last, brilliant. If they don't last, we'll get someone else in. And what no one's actually stopped and done as employers is actually looked back and gone, how much money are we spending on recruitment and on training and on agency fees and all this other stuff? When in fact, if we built a team and we valued our team, our profits will be higher, our customer satisfaction levels will be higher, and our retention will just ensure that we've got the leading competitive edge in the market.
There's one thing I noticed, especially with British chefs, is that the younger chefs, when we were younger, the idea was to work in as many kitchens as you can, 1-2 years, move on, gather as much information. Overseas in Europe, they work in kitchens 10 years because they found the place that makes them feel amazing and part of the family, and they grow with that place. That's unheard of over here.
And I think it's working somewhere that makes you happy and feel good. I think when I look back now, half of the place, I worked in places because I wanted it on my CV.
Yeah, we weren't
because of the reputation.
I mean,
no, I'm not on about you.
I'm joking.
I think the general, that's what a lot of chefs did, back 10 years ago. When I was training at 20, it was like, right,
2 years, boom.
We've got to work there. It's a 2-star. It's about building the CV without thinking about, but are we really loving it? Are we really, is it the best thing for our bodies and all these stuff?
I asked one of my chefs 2 years ago, I goes, you're looking to move because you've done your 2 years, because in his head 2 years, it goes, do you think you've learned everything? He goes, no. He goes, why are you leaving? He goes, I don't know. And it's because he thought he has to go.
Yeah.
He's fulfilled and he's nurtured. Like when we went to 4-day week in 2015, in my head, you're giving staff another 48 days off a year. Do you know what I mean? And you're giving them, they're working hard for 4 days, but you've got 3 days off where the restaurant's closed. You haven't got that mental stress where, say you work in a 6-day operation, you get 4 days a week. You're still on your last day off. You start thinking of, wonder what tomorrow's going to be like. Have I got enough prep? By 11, 12 o'clock, midday on the day before you go back to work, you're already stressed out. So you're back at work mentally.
That extra day is huge.
Should I text the guy on my section, make sure you don't stitch me up? When you are closed, you know that no one's going back on your section till you go back the next week. So that mental state, you're free. And I think that has been a massive, I've seen it. I've seen the difference.
How's it worked for your like, without going into details, Sat, but I'm intrigued to know how it's worked for your business and what changes you've seen in terms of your retention and your finances since that was implemented.
See, I've never been a profit guy. We've got no backers. We've got enough money to make sure the business is viable. Plus, we also reinvest heavily. So my investment is staff food, the extra day off, and feeding them really well. So, and then ultimately buying the best produce, giving the guests a world-class product, and giving everybody an amazing working environment. Like when Kirk worked there, Kirk wasn't very well. I know Kirk for a long time. He's one of the best chefs out there. We knew he was. I've watched him probably 10 years. I saw him in Australia. I know his father. I know all about it. When he came to us, he already was established. He wasn't very well. So we said, instead of you like suffering, let's do straight shifts. It's the first time we did it, Kirk, remember?
Yeah, no, it was amazing.
But it was difficult for Kirk because he's from that mindset that when he would leave at 5 or 6, whenever.
I was ashamed.
Yeah, he was ashamed. And I was like, don't be so stupid. But he couldn't get rid of that guilt because all of us were staying and doing the work. But he was valuable to me in the 8, 9, 10 hours he was there. But because he wasn't with his team per se, to be in the kind of the war zone.
The truth.
Because that's how it, but it shouldn't be like
I
that.
loved it.
We've done that with a few chefs.
Yeah, and it, that I'll never forget that. And he was so understanding of that. But at that point as well, I didn't know what I was dealing with as well. So I felt so alone, and I couldn't tell you what was wrong with me. I just kept having to go and get scans and every month. So I felt embarrassed to keep having.
I remember it well. It was a hard time.
Keep asking for an extra day off to go to the hospital to get scans, and then so then you just feel more and more apart, and then you just think.
But the irony is, back in the day when you worked for, say, chefs 15, 20 years ago, they'll call you a pussy and say, "What are you on about?" And it's, hang on a minute, I'm not well.
Yeah.
So if you can't switch on.
We've all worked. Yeah, with like, back then you just worked through whatever illness you had, didn't you?
But it's so.
But I was so uneducated. Even when I was with you, I was so uneducated then about how important my own health was and everything else, And it took me a big wake-up call these last 3 years to really understand that if you're not healthy, you can't enjoy anything. You can't be happy. So if people are going, you're miserable like this. Of course you're miserable. If you're in agony and you feel like shit, you can't go running like you used to do. You can't cook with, flair and passion like you used to do.
Exactly.
Then because that pain takes that away from you. And that doesn't mean you're just a depressive person. That means your symptoms are making you mentally feel down. Yeah. And that's okay. That's okay to admit that.
Probably a good time then to talk about the connection between diets and feeling healthier and better in yourself. And obviously, Tom, you mentioned that you're about food being medicine, and I think that's nicely connected to with what Kirk's learned. So, what would you say about that? And do you think people are starting to understand maybe a bit more how important it is what you put into your body?
I like to think so. I mean, I think there's still a massive problem with it, and it's not educated en masse. It needs to be educated from school. Like kids need to know that. I mean, there's a massive epidemic in itself about mental health when it comes to food, I think, and there's a lot of evidence now scientifically saying that excess sugar, excess gluten, and these things in our diets, particularly processed foods, it's like additives in certain processed foods, that too much of them, and actually in certain cases not a lot of them at all, can throw the body completely out of whack. And there's a little thing called the vagus nerve, which is a nerve that runs from the gut up to the brain, and that's what sends signals to the brain. So if the vagus nerve is getting signals that are out of balance, then that actually directly affects our mental health and our balance and whether we're depressed, whether we're anxious, whether we're able to enjoy a day, whether we can get up in the morning and actually enjoy what we're doing. So these things, when it comes to food, I think it needs to be educated. It's past like, oh, people should pay more attention. This is a must now, because we're in a situation where more and more people are becoming depressed and have mental health issues. And so much of it, I feel, is pointing towards our diets en masse, particularly how much processed food is available to the planet, particularly the Western world. There's far too much sugar. That is a major problem. And it's governments. It's down to governments. I think Jamie Oliver was on the right path when he was trying to get sugary beverages and things like the too high in sugar taxed higher. I think we need to start treating things like that like cigarettes, because they are causing that level of damage. So I think we do need to take notice of it, absolutely. And if we're not, we should be.
Yeah.
I think Tom's bang on. I think the trouble is education, and the trouble also is if a lot of people don't know how to cook the basic foods, and it's convenience. Because if you're a working mom, single mom working, or a single father, you've got to go out to work, you're going to go for convenience. Even making an omelette with some spinach in is a piece of piss, that. But
so easy,
if they're not going to do it because they don't know how to, because it's the basics. But I remember going to school and we used to do home ec. That's gone. No one does that shit anymore.
Is home ec gone now? Is it? It's like, so they don't even do like cookery. Oh man, that's terrible.
I'll tell you what I've noticed, and over the last few years, I talked to so many people about, health and food and stuff like that. There's a something in a lot of people, they don't believe it, that how powerful food can be. We're living in a society now where Western medicine is just so easy to get. Like you can go to the doctors and say you've got something, and you can come out with any sort of antidepressant or any sort of medication, and it's so much easier than putting that effort into putting good nutritional food into your own body. It's a lot easier just to take a tablet. I think that's a big part of it. It's a lifestyle change. It's a huge lifestyle change. Like the way I use my time now compared to what I used to do is I've done a complete 180. I'm a different human. Because I was on so much medication for 5 years, even before I started with SAT, because my pain was, I couldn't walk, I couldn't be on my feet longer than a few hours because the pain was so bad. I was on medication with people that have epilepsy because my nerve pain was so bad. And all I kept getting for 5 years was just keep doubling your medication. But nobody talked about the root causes until I started to go, hold on a minute, I'm not going to get anywhere here if I just keep getting flung from doctor to doctor, drug to drug. I need to take control of myself. I think the
irony, Kirk, is that if you and Tom and everybody, if you look at it, the basics is what we need. And with this pandemic, it's taught us all. Obviously, people are cooking at home more, so hopefully, they're cooking 3 times a day. That's not 10 weeks, 3 times a day. That's a lot of meals. So if you think about it, people aren't. You saw the sourdough kind of breakout. Everyone's making sourdough. The gut health of that is fantastic. People understand about the biome, about your gut health. That they talk to each other. That you actually the gut instinct is all. I've been reading. Is it Tim Spector? His work he's done on the twins, fascinating stuff. I'm my nutritionist works with him, so I might be on a course that hopefully can do something. So I love the idea where this is what I want to introduce to my team, and then I want to introduce the elements to the menu, because you're not, like you said, with the element of guests wanting something sweet. We very rarely put any. So we stopped putting. Say something at 100 grams of sugar in the dessert, we went to 25%. No one knew. No one noticed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No one noticed. So we got rid of 75%.
Yeah.
But no one noticed because the texture was creamy and luxurious, and the bit of chocolate had more depth and things like that. So I just think the education the basics is key. Right? This pandemic, we've all had to go back to basics. We've all realised that we've all put ourselves on pause. We're cooking with the family again, and the nurturing and eating around the table together. That's what's missed.
That's exactly right.
That's what's been missing.
We're cutting through the bullshit. Like society is full of like technology and quick fixes and quicker travel and fast-paced lifestyle. And for the first time in a very, very long time, I mean, even the Spanish flu, we were during a war period. So we didn't get this opportunity as human beings to stop, listen to our innate needs and go, what do we need? We need to exercise regularly. We need to eat healthily. We need to be part of a family. And what we're doing sat at home, we're getting bored. So we need to be learning and we need to be developing ourselves. And all of a sudden, once this panic period is over and you start looking at these 4 or 5 steps, then you suddenly go, actually, I've been completely neglecting myself for this my entire life. Because no one
actually,
I think it's a huge.
Because I was going to say the thing is that I've noticed as well, because this goes back to like you, Kirk, as well, in that. So a big thing about the coronavirus that it created immediate consequence for not doing something about it. Everyone started worrying about their immunity and their own health and how can they improve it. And obviously things that about diet started coming up. But I think in life, when you don't have immediate consequence for making decisions about your own health, then it goes to the back of your mind. You don't care. You don't care about, I might get cancer or heart disease in 20, 25, 30 years time. But when there is an immediate consequence that's around the corner, that if you don't take control of your immunity, it could kill you. Everyone's all of a sudden like, oh, I better do something then. You know, and this is the thing with myself and with Kirk, and I'm not sure if you boys have had the same experience, but like Kirk, I was in a lot of chronic pain. I had 2 herniated discs in my back, and I was on all these NSAID drugs and stuff, and I ended up getting a really bad stomach gastritis. So I was in severe pain, and I took control of my own health and realized that I had to do it all through diet. And I started doing all this research, and that's kind of on my journey. But the thing is I think the people who make that change, it's when they've gone through such pain, they've gone through to a point that they're like, I just cannot take it anymore. I will not have it. I'm in so much pain. You take control and you go, I'm never going back there again.
But the problem you've got is, does it mean you have to get to that point before you start taking?
Yeah, and that's the whole thing.
We
should be talking about prevention. You know, if you just keeping on top of your body. And I think, Sat, you've always done that, you know, with your fitness and eating, you know, well.
I just knew that
people wait until they're about to, like, you know, I waited till I was literally at the last tether of life till I started to realise I had to flipping change. And I think loads of people do that. They wait till they get in such a dark place to act. And I think that's what we need to change. Like, looking after your body can be fun, and you know, it's part of your life, and it can be fun. Eating healthy shouldn't be a chore. You know?
Well, that's the biggest thing, right? Is it becomes habitual, it becomes life. Like a lot of people say to me about being disciplined and about, oh, how do you be disciplined to do that? And I'm like, well, it's just life. It's like you just eat real food. That's all it is.
Yeah, but that's because you've worked to change that. Like,
but it's become habit. You know,
it's become habit. But people that I remember when I first quit sugar. Like, it took me like 2 months for my brain to stop craving it and thinking about it. And that's control and willpower that you have to break through to then stop your body craving that and get implements in place, you know, like have nuts around, have apples around, have all these other things around, so you don't break that habit and order a chocolate bar or whatever, go and buy a chocky bar.
I think, like, as a trade, we're quite in a unique position, especially from a chef's perspective, because we are creatures of habit. Effectively, we come in at the right time, we get on with the mise en place, service hits at 12 o'clock, and around we go. So really, we've already got the skill set to be able to fit and adapt into these structures. So yes, it does require a hell of a lot of energy, but it's a minute amount of energy with maximum benefits, long-term benefits. I think if we can find a way of actually getting people to go, do you know what, I can get up at this time, I can go to work at this time, I can do these lists, etc., and apply that same principle to life, all of a sudden you've got a completely healthier, like the 3rd biggest industry in the UK, and it completely turns around.
And the people in our industry are incredible. Like, our industry is amazing. Like, look at the skills like we've created after, you know, through all the stuff that we've been going through now, and like we're the most diverse industry and helpful. Like, the industry supports each other now more than it's ever done, I think. Like, 10 years ago it used to be a bit competitive, I think. Do you agree, Sat?
Yeah, 100%.
Now, like, everyone bigs everyone else up and wants to support everyone else, sharing stuff for other people, and like, it's amazing, our industry.
But the way I look at it, exactly what Kirk said, is like, you have, and also because we're in a position, I've been in the restaurant 20 years and we've had some amazingly talented people come through the kitchen, including Kirk. But you want to pass on some knowledge, and it's not just about a knife skill, it's a life skill. You want to say, listen, you've got to look after your staff, you look after your team, look after yourself, get the best produce, eat well, eat as well as your customers, spend the extra money on staff food, so make sure you get some nice proteins and all the rest of it, and some really healthy veg, and your cooking techniques has to include steaming and this, that, the other. You have to look at the macros in terms of what you're all eating for the fuel, and twice a day to 3 times a day. And as soon as that investment's put in, that becomes this, oh my God. And then when they submit the menu, they have to submit the menu a week before. So on the Saturday, they have to submit next week's menu. So then we can look at it. My wife looks at it, she goes, well, actually, it looks like there's a lot of carbs in that, or that's 2 lots, very similar days. Then they'll look at, so, that's some steamed fish, and it's exciting. And you put the menu up on the Saturday for the following week, and the staff go over to it, and they're giddy about next Thursday because you've got this like Thai casserole, or do you know what I mean? That's what food should be about for us in the industry. We should be excited about eating next Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, when we're going to be eating, and what's for breakfast on Saturday.
Yeah,
and you've
that's the
always
biggest
said
way.
it.
But that's how you create that family culture, which is what we're all missing.
Absolutely.
A lot of the guys coming to us have left home, so we're their family. So I've got to make that culture where they sit around the table, we feed them, we look after them, we look after the hours, we look after the time. So you become their family. So that's what is missing in society. So we're trying to reintroduce it. So that when they leave us, I want them to say, stop. We should be sitting around together and eating. This is wrong. We shouldn't be standing in the kitchen on a metal fucking plate like you're a dog, which some of my mates do. They've done that. I goes, why have your staff got metal plates? Because, they're just fucking workers. But I can't get my head around the stupidity and the negativity that's old-fashioned. But you're creating talented people, but with the wrong ethics.
Yeah. Stick rather than carrot, hey?
Yeah, you need to train them in a. We're fortunate we've had some brilliant guys come through us, and I'm hoping, and I know they're doing their bit now. And it's like Tom said, it's a slow process, but we've got to start by looking at yourself in the mirror. Am I doing the best I can? And we all can do better.
Do you know, Deloitte, there was a report by Deloitte in January of this year, and they said at the very minimal level that if employers started reinvesting into their staff, there'd be a 5-to-1 return. For every pound that they spend, they'll get £5 back. It doesn't always have to relate to financial value, because sometimes you can implement changes like sitting down to eat together. It doesn't cost a penny, it's just a very simple change. But some of those changes from that report, it's a pretty hefty report, but some of those changes were 11-to-1 returns.
But isn't it sad when you start looking at it from a monetary value?
You have to for employers, though, sometimes.
Because it's dictated by business so much. We're talking about love, about giving, about sharing. That shouldn't have any monetary value.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it.
That's the fact. It's got too corporate. When you've got big backers and you've got to perform, and say, hang on, we hit like 68%. Well, let's hit 65 and give them all 3% back.
Yeah, 100%.
It's no profit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And obviously we've covered diet, but what about exercise and fitness? I know that's something that you're very into, and how does that is that good for the body and good for the mind? Is that something that you believe in?
For me, I've trained 33 years, so I used to do lots of heavy weights when I was younger, like everyone did, and these spit and sawdust gyms, which are like lift as much as you can, and then now it's more cardio and it's more fitness based, and now it's more technique based. So I've loved the whole journey. I do yoga twice a week. I do Krav Maga on a Saturday. I do training 5 times a week. I started running about 4 years ago. I hate it. I've just completed my 250th kilometre on Sunday, power walking with a 30-kilo vest. So they're all mental challenges to yourself. So I look at it, if my team see me doing that and I'm still being pushed and challenging myself, they almost think, well, hang on, he's 49 years old. I'm going to start. And all my guys and girls train. They swim, play tennis, kickbox. One's a BMX bandit. Do you know what I mean? But the fact is they all train. And their mindset, one's a boxer. So when they come in on the day off, after the day off, and they say, well, I did 20 lengths. There's a buzz. And then they have the split. And they say, what are you doing? I'm going to go swimming. And you just hear them and the excitement. Oh, should we go on a bike ride this weekend? And it's that active, keeping that endorphin level. Because, you know, we all get up, oh, it's raining. Like this morning it was raining. Put my waterproofs on, went to the park, 10K. But you have to the hardest thing about getting to a gym is getting to the gym.
Get in,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once you're there, you're there. But the thing is, the
Doing
battles you
anything
have in your mind of, oh, it's raining, I'm tired, I didn't go until 2 o'clock last night. As soon as you start putting doubt, you've got to then think, get up now.
Yeah.
And you do it, but you feel amazing afterwards.
That's
the key. That's the drug. That's the euphoria.
Yeah. I don't know if you do them, Sat, but me and Tom, we've spoke about it for a while now. We do ice cold showers in the morning, and that's the same thing. It's that control of your mind, and once you out that shower, you do so much more the next day. After that, on that day.
It's incredible.
But it's that few minutes we've been scared about going in. But if you just control your mind and go straight in and stay there for 1 minute or whatever, I find it amazing, don't you, Tom?
I think that's beautiful because it gets all the blood flowing and
and it takes away any negative thoughts and it gets you power charged for then doing anything else.
Because you put yourself in the most uncomfortable position, haven't you?
Yeah.
Straight
now you think, nothing can get worse than this.
Is the same thing as it's the same thing as the food thing. Is that I think you touched on it, Kris, is like saying how it's short. People tend to, in this day and age, they're looking for that short-term fix, but not realizing the long-term discomfort they're going to get from that short-term little fix. Whereas actually, short-term discomfort tends to have much better long-term benefits. So a short-term 2-minute cold shower, is going to have massive benefits to your longevity and to your mental health and to all-round well-being.
Great way. That's a great analogy. Yeah.
The short-term of getting up, the 2 minutes it takes you to get up into your gym gear and get out the door, done. Short-term discomfort, but you're going to get long-term benefits. And I think people just need to switch that, because the convenience world that we live in, people have just got sort of blindsided that it's like everything's comfortable. Oh, but it's nice like this. Oh, this dessert tastes better, so I'm going to have this or this. You know, it's all short-term.
Goes back to willpower, though.
That's how we're programmed, isn't it?
We're conditioned. Yeah,
especially like the iPhone. Like, everything's immediate. You can get everything now, and if something takes 5 seconds to load on your phone, you're really pissed off now. It should be 2 seconds.
Oh, mate,
without mind, I want it there. Like, strip it all back, and at the end of the day, like, we're just carbon-based life forms, right? If we lived in the jungle or if we lived in the desert, we'd be running, we'd be eating, we'd be huddling together for security. Just because we've got all this bullshit around the outside, ultimately, strip it all back. Our innate needs are quite simple, but as you said, we don't do it. And if you start looking at us as animals, and then start focusing on those needs, you'll find that your life is genuinely a lot more fulfilled and a lot happier off the back of it. Anyway,
I saw it's quite relevant, but I saw The Matrix for the first time in ages, the 1999 with Keanu Reeves, and one of the I can't remember the guys in the suit. He said to Lawrence Fishburne, he goes, I've looked at mammals because that's what you're classed as, but you're not mammals, you're viruses. Because what we do, we go everywhere, clear it out, then move on to the next one. So we're like a plague, you know what I mean? We're not even living in the confines of a community where we can grow and eat and be sustainable. We just decimate, then move on. So I thought that's a brilliant analogy of what's actually happening in the world. It's just
so true.
Everything's so fast. Everything is
I think the thing is, we can learn so much. I mean, one of the biggest learning curves I had was when I did, like you were saying, Kris, to take it back to like a hunter-gatherer. If you think about what you'd be doing in your primal setting, that you're born into this world, not addicted to anything, you don't desire a phone or any kind of sugar or any of those things. You don't desire them. It's whatever you're conditioned to. So if you take it, I try, and all the decisions I make in my day-to-day life, I try and think, okay, well, how natural is that? How easily would I have got that in a primal setting to know if it's actually something that should even be going into my body, or should I be exposing myself to it? Obviously, modern day living has to come into it a little bit, but it's just about having that in the back of your mind to know that your day-to-day decisions can be affected quite easily just by having that mindset of what's natural for me.
Yeah.
And talking about that kind of quick fix and that fast pace, obviously the one good thing that's come out of lockdown is that we have had to slow down, we have had to take some time and think. And you know, a lot of people will have taken that and been able to make the changes that you're talking about because they've had that time to do that and change their habit. So how about when we go back into that intense, busy working lifestyle? Maybe it won't be the same as before, but it will be.
I think it will be. I think it won't take long to get back to normal.
No, I agree.
And that's why I'm really disappointed. Yeah, because we've missed, a lot of people have missed. I've got to admit, apart from having no job and not being able to put all my guys on furlough in the restaurant, we don't know where we are. I've really enjoyed this time because it's probably the first time in 33 years I stopped. And I've been able to cook every day and just catch up with Amanda and family and phone. But I do believe people will just go straight back. Like, they've opened McDonald's, right? And there's 4-hour waits at the drive-through. Like, no one can be that desperate.
So there we go.
McMuffin.
So there we go about like how are people changing in terms of about what we eat and taking it seriously. We're being positive. We want to say they are, but a lot of population just won't. That's the truth.
Because they're hurt.
Because they're addicted. They want to queue up for 4 hours at McDonald's.
But the irony is, you could make a sausage McMuffin at home 10 times better and more healthy
version.
Yeah, no sodium.
But
the thing is, you have to,
it's not the same though, is it? That's the thing.
When you make that lifestyle change, you have to see yourself. Like, I certainly, like, back in the day, man, I used to smash a McMuffin, right? But
hey, there's nothing wrong with that. As long as
it's I still now think about those things because I used to smoke as well, and I can think about those things in my head now and go, oh my God, I remember how good that tasted. But it's like the same as when I quit smoking. I'm still aware that it was great to go outside and have a social cigarette, but it's that whole thing of being an ex-addict. You have to kind of admit that you're an addict to that kind of way of living, that food, to actually move past it. Once you admit, oh, actually, no, I probably am addicted to it, so I need to make that change in it because it's not good for me. Until you're willing to do that, which most people aren't, then there's no change happening, not en masse anyway. So it's only about individuals and them having.
I do believe there will be a percentage that have really enjoyed cooking at home, getting the family back together, and I hope that stays with them. I hope they say normally 6 days out of 7 we wouldn't sit around the table, but we're going to sit around 3 times and have a family meal. I hope that happens because if you think about it, there's going to be a lot more skilled cooks at home now because they're having to cook at home. So yes, it's been a chore on the first surge in restaurants because they haven't got to cook. There will be a surge, but I do believe some of them are actually enjoying it, like cooking at home, spending time in the kitchen, a glass of wine. Do you know what I mean? All them things that makes it. You're cooking with love to give love back to the table.
Yeah.
So I think that's hopefully going to be something that we see. I hope that has an effect on people.
Yeah.
I hope that.
If you have any tips on how to kind of keep those good habits, because it is quite difficult sometimes. Is there anything?
Oh, it is.
Because you've all admitted that you haven't always had good habits. So you have changed. So is there any like little baby steps or anything that you could say to people? Just, try this.
I tell you what, I still do it now occasionally. I look in the mirror and I give myself a bollocking. The things I'm not happy about myself. And there's nothing worse than bollocking yourself. Because you're just telling yourself, oh, like, why the fuck you do that? Why have you done that?
I think you bollocking me would be worse than me bollocking me, actually.
But it's just a trigger. It's like a trigger, like, okay, I'm going to listen to that. That's it, done. But it's, I don't know. It's difficult.
I think
like, it's exactly what you were saying there. It's like there are habits, right? So people go into old habits. And I think the key thing is that you have to do, for positive change, it's like you didn't have those negative habits until you did them over and over and over and over again.
Excessively.
Like, say, a habit. You have to do the same thing with a positive thing. You have to see it as a thing you have to work at it's like training a muscle, right? You've got to train that muscle to want to have that thing in your life. And then before you know it, you've forgotten about the negative habit because you're doing the positive one so much.
Yeah.
It becomes life.
So writing yourself, I put a social media post up a little while ago, probably about a month ago now, about writing a mise-en-place list, but for your life. So like if you're going to create a routine and a habit, wake up half an hour earlier. What am I going to do half an hour earlier? You're going to have a shower. You're going to wake up, perhaps go for a 30-minute walk.
Freezing shower.
Yeah, freezing shower. Honestly, that's one of my gutting things about having one. Like, I bought a new house, and the shower doesn't go cold. And especially like if you do happen on the rare instance to be really hungover, a cold shower just sorts your life out. But it's about creating those structures, and by ticking them off and writing them down, you've got a structure that you can work by, and you've got a reminder of what you've achieved and what you haven't achieved. And the other one is, like, again, writing stuff down, but writing down like your 3 best wishes. Write them down, put them in your drawer. Don't even look at them again. When you go to bed, write them down again, put them in the drawer. And over a period of time, your subconscious actually, you go back through that, and I've done it myself. I did it with the Bird Chef project. I knew I wanted to do something to help mental health. Wrote down one day out of bed, I want to do something to help mental health, put it away, didn't think about it again. And you look back 6 months later and go, that's mad. It's like some sort of voodoo mind trick. So just writing this down, subconscious starts kicking in. It's unreal.
Yeah, and I think whatever situation you're in with your life, just find 3 things that you're grateful for. I think gratitude's huge, isn't it? Because if you're suffering with anything, or whatever you're going through, you can always find some other good things to focus on, which will help that. I think me and Thomas spoke before about a doctor called Joe Dispenza. And he talks about the power of the mind for the rest of our bodies. So if you start getting anxious about something, you can actually create illness in your own body, disease, just by purely the way we think. So if one thing goes wrong, then you get stressed, and then you're worried about the next day, and the next day is going to go wrong, or whatever else. That can really it depletes your immune system.
Well, it creates inflammation. That stress is it's like any stress. It's it's like if you overtrain. If you overtrain, that can create too much stress in the body, which has the same effect. It's like why a lot of athletes who train to excess, they can get ill. Very ill, because it's a stress on the body. So that is a muscle that it gets overworked and stressed, and it just sends inflammation across the body. So getting control of this, and I think a huge part of that is what goes in here as well. But getting control of that is huge, because stress is a real problem for creating illness in the body, for sure.
Well, look at things like rabbits, or any mammals. When they get stressed, sometimes, well, in most cases, they die. Those stress levels get so high that it actually shuts down the incomplete body. We're no different. We have a little bit more resilience.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we just
but ultimately, we need to be focusing on reducing stress, looking after ourselves, feeding ourselves, and the positivity curve was, right on there. At the end of the day, you could take yourself from a negative position where you're feeling cold, you're feeling fluey. I knew one chef who ended up with rickets, from the stressful position and the remuneration it was going through. But actually, if you start thinking positively, you can just even one small thing, gratitude.
It's just being, being grateful to have a warm bed to sleep in, having hot water, having food. Think how privileged we are.
But that's what we're hoping to come out from all this, aren't we?
Well, I was going to say, Sat, you're a really amazing example of an employer who really thinks about their staff and what they need and their well-being and things. So this pause in the industry, is this a great time for hospitality to make changes that have been talked about but have not actually happened?
Absolutely. You've got a blank canvas going back. We can change what we do and patterns by. I've always thought, I hate the idea of following. So I've always thought, me and Amanda always thought, why not lead? And that doesn't mean because we want to be the leaders. It's just like, let's not look at what everyone else is doing. Let's look at why we should do something different. Can we do it better? And 9 times out of 10, exactly what we talked about here, we're herd creatures. We follow the herd. To break out the pen takes a bit of a risk. You've got to look over the precipice. There's no safety net. Fuck it, let's jump. What's the worst that can happen? You're going to die. Metaphorically. But the point is, for change, you've got to take risks. And we are risk takers, but we've got to make sure that the risk has got a result that is beneficial. And that's never profiteering or about the restaurant being X, Y, Z. It's about, we've been there 20 years, and what we've had is an amazing team over that 20 years that's helped us succeed in the accolades and everything we've got. It's not been me. I've been lucky enough to have a phenomenal team coming through the doors for 20 years. So everything belongs to all of us. As long as you have that mentality, surely you can then go back to restaurants in hopefully July, August, September when we reopen and say all the things that I wanted to do, I never had the chance because I was on this kind of like guinea, on the hamster wheel. Yeah. Now I've had the time to think, no, I'm going to implement this. I'm going to implement good staff food. I'm going to implement good working conditions. I'm going to implement gym membership with my local gym and give them a subsidy. See, these are the things that I think are going to be positive for our industry. I just think, I know it is. I've seen it. So it's not like I'm hopeful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
So.
We should be leading the way. Sorry, Clara, we should be leading the way in the UK. We are the third biggest industry in the whole of the UK for hospitality, and ultimately we need to be setting the example rather than following and doing what always has been done. We need to be going to countries like America. We need to be going to places like Australia and South Africa and saying, actually, guys, this is how we do it. This is how it should be done, and we're setting a new standard for how we look after people.
Yeah, like you said earlier, write 3 things down. Write 3 things down you're not doing at your restaurant or your workplace now.
Mm.
And then when you get back, you've got time now to research it, implement it, resource it, and there's no excuse, because there is no excuse. There's no excuse for not looking after the welfare, mental and well-being of your team, and that's a fact.
It's a legal requirement. That's what.
Yeah, but it's a very flimsy legal agreement, isn't it? There's no real parameters. You can just give them a bowl of fucking gruel and you'll be all right,
Yeah, I know. I agree with you completely.
Well, like I said, this is a massive topic and I would love to keep talking to you all, but I am going to have to bring it to a close. I found it fascinating and I'm sure that everyone else has. If anyone has got any questions, I'm sure that if they wanted to contact you on social or anything like that, then you'd be happy to answer any of those. And I don't know if anyone wants to, this is a tough time for some people. I don't know if any of you recommend anyone that if they want to talk, if it's not yourselves. I don't know, Kris, maybe the best place for them to go. I know there's Hospitality Action, there's Pilot Light, for mental health, but if anyone's got any others that they'd like to point out before we go, it's probably a good time to do it.
I mean, I think, if you're in a position where you are feeling alone, you're feeling vulnerable, you've got thoughts going through your head that you don't recognise and don't want and you're not comfortable with, then don't feel for any moment of time there's any stigma or any reason to stop reaching out to services like Samaritans or Shouts. Shouts are a 24/7 text-based service. It's free. If you don't want to speak to someone verbally, you can text them. Samaritans, and sometimes just having a conversation with someone who doesn't know you, who has no idea what your backstory is, and who's there just to listen, can completely and utterly change around what could be quite a dire circumstance. And no one at all should ever feel ashamed about talking something that's completely biological. Like, it's normal. If you're not feeling 100%, you're not feeling right, you're concerned, or you're concerned about someone else, use one of those 2 services, or look at myself, Pilot Light campaign, look at Hospitality Action, look at any of the resources coming out from the Minds or someone like Kelly's Cause Foundation, and just look to see you're not alone. You're not alone at all.
Brilliant, thank you.
Guys, stay safe. Lovely seeing you all.
Thank you.
I'll be adding a cold shower into my routine.
Cold showers, everyone.
Yeah.
Cold showers.
I want to see you in cold shower tomorrow.
Listen, you can run the water if you want, Kurt.
Yeah. Ice shower. Mate.
Ice showers.
Right, thank you everybody.
Put some shorts on there.
Thanks, folks.
Right,
stay safe, guys.
Bye, big love.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this interview, and if you have any comments, feel free to tweet us or comment on the post. We're making all of our interviews available to download. And finally, if you like what we do, whether it's our podcast or our videos or even our features, please head over to our Patreon page and support us there. This episode of Grilled is sponsored by Rationale, your leading provider in multifunctional hot food preparation equipment. Register now for a free Rationale live demo at www.rationale-online.com.